Of Catherine Nye's report from earlier this week.
The paradise Greek holiday island of Lesbos. Also home to the refugee camp described as the worst on the planet. So we've been given 45 minutes only to go around the camp. This is a section for the newest arrivals. There's 7,500 people in here. It has capacity between 2,000 and 3,000. Food is scarce, conditions are appalling, and violence is almost constant. Fewer refugees are arriving on this island than previous years, but they're not leaving. As part of the EU-Turkey deal, they're being held on Lesbos rather than moving to the mainland. While we're filming at the camp, 2 people are stabbed in the queue for food. Police block us from getting near the scene.
Always the same pattern. It starts with a fight. Now was for the food line. 2 people got stabbed, and it's always something between different communities.
MSF say conditions are leading to deep trauma, that they have children as young as 10 attempting suicide.
We are reporting this to the public system, to UNHCR, to the Minister of Health. Look, we have children as young as 10 years old who try to suicide, and there is no child psychiatrist or psychologist on this island. And despite the fact that we push to move these children to Athens as soon as possible, it's not happening.
Ali, along with many other Kurdish people, fled Moria after a huge fight there in May. Largely between Kurdish and Arab men. Iron bars were used to beat people.
دخلنا ولقينا يعني هي موجودة العنصرية موجودة أو الطائفية موجودة.
Do you think there are dangerous people in Moria?
مو باعتقادي أكيد. قد ما يحكي الواحد اللي ما بيعيشها ما بيعرف. مثل الحرب بسوريا على أبشع.
Despite conditions, boats keep coming. Almost everyone on this one from Afghanistan. Hello! Hello! They celebrate landing somewhere at least more safe, but are unaware of the new trauma that lies ahead.
That was Catherine Nye's report. Let's go now to our UN correspondent Imogen Fuchs, who joins us from Switzerland. She's been looking at what has been said by the UNHCR this morning. Tell us more about their response, Imogen.
Well, the UNHCR has couched its statement in fairly diplomatic language, but it does say that conditions in this particular camp are reaching boiling point. It points out that there are overcrowded conditions, not just on Lesbos, but in Samos and Chios as well. Now, these are not actually refugee camps. These are reception centres, always supposed to be temporary, with none of the infrastructure that children and women at risk would need. No psychosocial support, no measures in place to prevent sexual violence, to prevent the kind of fighting we saw there in Catherine's report. Now, the point is that there's people, when they arrive, they're supposed to be there for a few weeks and then moved and have their requests for asylum assessed. And if they're genuine refugees, as the UN Refugee Agency says, thousands of these people on the islands actually are, then they should be allowed to stay in safety on the mainland, not on islands which have no infrastructure to support them. Or if their claim is rejected, then they should be returned from whence they came, but not left in this squalor and limbo, which the UN rather diplomatically says the Greek government, despite EU funding, is having difficulty facing the challenge of dealing with this. And that's kind of, as I said, diplomatic speak for saying, really, they're not doing the job. There are a lot of delays. These people should be off these islands and onto the mainland, but it's not happening.
So what happens then? I mean, if the Greek government is not doing what UNHCR and others are saying they should be doing, what's to make them?
Well, publicity, which is somewhat shaming, which this is. Questions about what Greece has actually been doing with that money from the European Union, which is supposed to support Greece as a frontline EU member state, which is taking, far more refugees coming to their shores than somewhere like the United Kingdom is. Way, way, way more. So it does need support. But what is it doing with the financial support it has received? Why is there this go slow of not moving people off the islands? The UN Refugee Agency has said they stand ready to support Greece. Greece has to invite them. The UN Refugee Agency would go to these islands and advise about how to create better conditions. But the key thing really is that these people need to be moved off these islands to proper refugee camps and asylum seeker centres, and not these reception centres which have none of the facilities that they really need.
Thank you very much, Imogen. Let's talk now to Louise Roland-Gosselin, the head of mission in Greece for Médecins Sans Frontières. The charity have called this the worst refugee camp in the world. Thank you for joining us. Well, we've had a response now from the UNHCR, which effectively says unless Greece does move people out of these refugee camps, it is a fact they are overcrowded and they're in very difficult situations. What is your reaction to that statement?
I mean, we very much welcome that statement. It is indeed a crisis in overcrowding. I think what we would add is that this is a health and mental health crisis and a crisis in protection. As my colleague had said earlier in your program, our medical team are expecting to treat people for trauma that they have experienced in their country of origin. It's totally taking our teams aback. And these are teams worked in war zones throughout the country. They are treating trauma so that the mental health consequences of trauma that has happened in Greece. We have children as young as 10 who are attempting suicide on the island because of the fear, desperation that they face. Women, men, children.
Louise, I'm terribly sorry, but we are really struggling to hear you. We've got some technical issues with the line and the connection isn't brilliant. We will, if we possibly can, try to connect with Louise a little bit later and get her thoughts.